John Emmett was the first on. Good evening, all. I wonder what topic of today's show will be. Well, we're going to start with John Emmett.
Yes.
Fair winds, Tom, Julia, and all from Christopher Gillingham in Leamington. Thanks for your text, Christopher. Peter Taylor's back in New York City. He was here this past weekend. We had a great time with Peter and his bride, Sandy. Cheers from Chicago. Rick Hayes is saying. Fritz Mueller, hi from Miami. Clear, sunny day, not much breeze. David James across the bridge is here. And Joyce Chiarella out in Hawaii saying aloha. David James saying hola.
Hola. I forgot to listen.
Schaefer is back from the Caribbean after sailing down there for a month. Captain Jack. Julie Aarons in Cleveland. Hola from Denmark. Gordon Smith is saying. Rob Sternstein. Rob was here with us also over the weekend. Not so warm but sunny Boston. What a weekend. Yep, we had fun with you too, Rob. Let's get this one off the dock.
7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to Studio B here at the Beach Street Yacht Club. I'm your host, Tom Eman, and with us, as always, is the Commodore of the Beach Street Yacht Club, my dear friend and co-host, supervising producer of TFE Live, Julia Vedekent. We did have a great weekend, didn't we?
We did.
Well, I had a little bit of a party with the FOSI that we'll tell you about in due course. I want to congratulate Tom Slingsby and his team on winning here, SailGP, as I'm sure you've all seen. And you've probably also seen the big announcement about Barcelona, which, of course, we told you was coming on Friday. In fact, for weeks, we've been suspecting that's where it be. Welcome to show number 509 today. The birthday of Eman Kid number 2. My beloved sister Ruth was born today. A couple, 3, maybe 4 years after I can't remember now.
You don't remember?
I don't. That's sad, isn't it?
Yeah.
Is that Crutonic?
Probably.
I think she's 4 years younger than I. And let's not talk about sisters. Let's. What are the comments coming in hot and heavy already? Krasimir, hi all, in Bulgaria. Carlos Aviz down in South America saying hi. Steve Ross in San Diego. Beautiful San Diego. James Frederick Bland, did you know a sane person will go insane after just 48 hours after associating with crazy people? Yeah. You could say that for all of us, right, Julia?
I'm glad to know that.
I think it's these FOSI that keep me sane. I don't know about you.
Yeah.
Love you all and love the comments and the support and following. Jonathan Frank. John Emmett, we mentioned, he's now over on YouTube. We're streaming both to YouTube and to our Sailing Illustrated Facebook pages, my personal page as well. Miserable day in New Zealand, Luca Craig is saying. I wonder why, even though it's sunny. Yeah, Luca, I agree. I don't know, Luca, if you heard me on Radio New Zealand. I'll play that in a sec. Any word on the court case? I don't know that they're going to file a court case with the announcement being Barcelona, but we shall see in due course. Let's get on with the pre-start. Do you know, Julia, what day it is today?
Well, I do know that it's Ma and Pa stores.
Yeah, that's a national. I tried to do international, but yeah, I saw that it's
Yeah.
National Ma and Pa Business Day or something here in the States. But in fact, it is. There's your one and only clue. Robin Noah is saying, yeah, happy Tuesday indeed.
Little Mermaid Day.
Yeah, well, it's International Mermaid Day. There is such a thing, believe it or not.
Oh, that's good.
Every year on the 29th. My sister will like that.
Yes.
And today is the International Mermaid Day 2022. Have you all, and of course it's related to the sea, how could we not use this one? Have you always had an affinity with the ocean, felt the pull of tides, and wondered what lies beneath the waves in the depths of the sea?
Mm-hmm.
Then you'll love diving into International Mermaid Day and celebrating these mystical mer people. I mean, mer, I guess, for French sea, but mer you can't say mer when you're really talking about mermaids.
No.
With their ancient roots and significance in cultures all over the world, mermaids continue to intrigue and enchant us to this day, do they not?
Indeed.
Do you have a favorite mermaid?
I don't.
Well, you know, mermaids have been involved in the Cup. Due to their association with seafarers, such as sailors and pirates, mermaids are common heraldry on the prows of ships. And the coffee giant Starbucks, you knew who Starbucks was? Moby Dick?
Yeah, chief mate.
He was the chief mate in Whaling Tale. Moby, you were reading ahead of us. Very clever.
Yeah.
Features a double-tailed mermaid known as a, how do you pronounce that? Maluzini?
Yeah, I don't know.
I don't know. On its logo. In fact, they've taken Starbucks coffee off their logo and just going with this mermaid. But more importantly, do you recognize, Julia, this yacht?
Well, I recognize the mermaid.
It's an IACC yacht from the 95 Cup in San Diego. John Marshall's team, Young America, and then we, with
Yes.
Team Dennis Conner, took the mermaid over after we won the Defender trials, but were convinced this was a faster boat than ours, and Bill Koch would not let us have his boat, which we thought was the fastest of the three defense boats, when we went on to race in the match. That is Team Dennis Conner. But back to the mermaid for a second. This is arguably the most artful, is that the right word, America's Cup yacht ever. And the Gallery magazine 2-3 years ago, maybe 4 years ago by now, ran a really nice story. The headline, The Incredible Story Behind Roy Lichtenstein's.
I didn't know he did that.
He did, the famous artist. I think he's gone now.
Mm-hmm.
America's Cup sailboat, one of Lichtenstein's largest in last works, was a 77-foot hull, now on display in Vermont, or at least it was last we knew. Andrew Watson is saying, I'd love to be enchanted by a mermaid sometime.
Mm-hmm.
Steve Gruber saying, what about the Aloha Challenge? Yes, we could talk about that mermaid as well, and a few others. Young America, Christopher Gillingham had it. No, Rick Hayes, not America One. Young America. Anyone knows if there's an IACC operational somewhere that can be chartered? Yes, there are, starting with San Diego and New Zealand. Krasimir. I like the mermaid. Roy was world famous. It's now on display in New York State, actually, Steve Gruber says. Yes, I think that is correct. It's moved around a bit. But it was a very interesting design, brought a lot of attention from outside the sailing world to the 95 Cup. And, of course, I wasn't on board. I was the rules advisor for Team Dennis Conner. We switched over to that boat. Probably should have stuck with our own Stars and Stripes, to be honest. And we lost ignominiously 5-0 to Team New Zealand in the finals of the 1995 America's Cup. Sir Peter Blake, Russell Coots, Brad Butterworth, et al. But back to mermaids, perhaps the most well-known depiction is Hans Christian Andersen's fairy tale, The Little Mermaid, later adapted into a popular Disney movie of the same name. In honor of this beloved story, the city of Copenhagen in Denmark, his native country, is home to that statue we saw a minute ago of the mermaid, the Little Mermaid, and plenty of other places have similar sculptures. So on the 29th of March, today we celebrate, appropriately enough,
Aha.
International Mermaid Day.
I think that's lovely.
Have you ever wanted to be a mermaid or fantasized or thought?
Yeah. Yeah. When I was a teenager.
Yeah, there were some Crutonic videos of women on the edge of a pool all had mermaid outfits on, and
Right.
I could not bring myself to play one. I knew you all, the FOSI would have been critical of that.
Mm-hmm.
One other pre-start note, and that is that on Friday, our good friend Magnus Wheatley, Magnus the Magnificent, will be with us as our guest. We're going to cover his perspective on the America's Cup 37 venue announcement and SailGP, which took place here, and Magnus has written about extensively and wonderfully, frankly, don't you think, over the last week. So now we're getting some jokes. John Schaefer saying those are sea cups on the mermaid. Statue is about 6 miles from Gordon Smith's house. He lives in Denmark. Wiki Wacky Springs in Florida. I don't know what that means. Is there something down there related to mermaids, one supposes?
Mm-hmm.
Cheers, mate. Stingray is saying, it's my longtime dream to sail one. I guess he means an IACC yacht. Daryl Hannah was a great mermaid. Fritz Mueller is, yes, recounting from the movie. There are two. What was the name of that movie? It wasn't The Little Mermaid. That was the other one.
No.
Remind us, Fritz, the name of that movie. There are 2 TNZ IACCs, 81 and 83 for charter, also in Mexico, in Cozumel, he thinks. Okay. Some other comments.
I always think of the mermaid in the Mark Hopkins hotel pool.
Is there one here in the Mark Hopkins?
For a while, they in their main dining room in a glass pool, they had a mermaid.
And it was spouting water out of its mouth or something?
No, a real one.
A real one.
Mm-hmm.
A real mermaid, meaning a live woman in a dress up is a mermaid? Oh, in the Mark Hopkins here.
In their dining room upstairs, right.
How do you like today's cover slide? It's a bit messy, but I think I'm going to start using kind of the story or the theme of the day. I have to choose it the night before, but I still would have chosen these guys over Barcelona, I think. For our show number 509, and we're to the starting line. Welcome again to all of you from around the world for joining us for TFE Live, which we're thinking about rebranding as Tom Eamon Live because it's so hard to explain, like on Radio New Zealand tomorrow. What's TFE Live?
I know.
It's just Tom Eamon Live. It's my bloody name. It's my video podcast. Speaking of not a mermaid, but I'll tell you, he's hanging out with some beautiful women down there, not just his, I don't know if his wife's down there.
I haven't seen
John must have something special because you'll see in a slide after his report from today. John Emmett.
Tom, Julia, and all the FOSI, you can probably guess from my background, I'm no longer in Weymouth. In fact, I'm in sunny Palmer. Or maybe not so sunny Palmer. Looking like a big regatta this year. The boat park is absolutely full. And having not been here for 2 years, I really feel two ways. In one way, it's just wonderful to be back, having not been here for such a long time, and just to be standing on this same beach. But on the other hand, it almost feels like I've never left, and it's just the same as normal. Good old Palmer. Busy laser boat park, had a couple of glasses of sangria, and just really happy to be here. We've got the Ilka 6s here, we've got the Ilka 7s here, and we're joined by what is effectively a brand new Olympic class, the IQ foils. So hopefully not going to be any problems with the launching and recovery off the beach. But yeah, it could be quite interesting if we come in on a windy day. Going back to what I was saying on the previous show last week, we talked a little bit about COVID, and I didn't want anyone to think I was taking it lightly. If we look at the statistics, we have huge numbers of infections now in the UK. But I think the key thing is the negative outcomes, or rather than the lack of. And when we look at numbers, so for example, I say I expect numbers to go down in May, then I think, it's not like choosing lottery numbers. We have very good mathematical modelling now. So I think that's also why we can have more certainty. We understand the disease better, and it's more about the long term. We talked previously about Shanghai being locked down, and I think in the next few years we're going to see countries that are open, like the UK, and countries which are closed, and that's going to be a real cultural difference. I actually think it's about to start to rain, so I'm going to cut this short, but hopefully going to be doing lots more reporting from Palmer. Really good to be on the international circuit, and looking forward to a fantastic show.
Thank you, John Emmett, as always. And he's obviously smarter than I and both of us for that matter, because we're old and hanging out here in the studio in San Francisco. And he's looking at the nice cuisine, getting ready for the America's Cup, and a little sangria, as I think he mentioned in that video. And then he's teasing us, as I said in one of my cheekier lower thirds for today, teasing us with a taste of Spanish cuisine. Are you, John? But look at this. He's hanging out with the beautiful people, and including Ebru Balat, who is from Romania, who is one of his mentees. He's coaching her. And then a friend of hers and John's, Ana Jovanovic from Serbia. And Lily did you say, Julia, Lily is back in Southampton, did not make the trip with him?
Yeah, that's what somebody just said.
A lot of other comments here. Nice palmas in the background. Leaves gently blowing in a good breeze. John Emmett should do this live from the Flip Flop Bar. The Flip Flop Bar. Save some sangria for me. I'm arriving Palma on Sunday, Neil Collingridge is saying. Had IQ Foil Regatta in SF last year. They seem to work pretty well. Yes, Fog Machine, indeed. Barcelona, no win. Team New Zealand afraid of the breeze. J. Frederick Bland. No, I think they're really good in the ups range. James. Any other comments? There were a bunch of other commenting about his clean shaven, his drink, the 1,000 mile rule. And all that's cruel. That's cruel. Lily is still in Southampton doing media work. John himself said there will be a new Little Mermaid movie in 2023. Esther Williams. Was she a mermaid in a movie someplace, Julia?
Yes, but not sort of existentially.
We had dolphins on the Ilka racecourse at Weymouth this weekend, but alas, I didn't see any mermaids.
Well, you should have looked.
And then, of course, the name of the movie, as any number of our FOSI pointed out, was Splash.
Yes.
Remember that?
Yes.
Now I do too. That segment, of course, from courtesy of John Emmett Sailing. We appreciate John's every show he contributes and has been doing so for better part of 100 shows, I think. We appreciate it very much indeed. Our European and Olympic correspondent, John Emmett, right?
Right.
Okay, well, let's get to the Cup news, and then we'll do Sail GP after that. As you know, we've been telling you for a week or so, but I told you Friday that the venue was going to be, I did a One Here's, and if you go back and watch Friday's show, you'll see I said One Here's is going to be Barcelona. They're going to announce it provisionally, but with vigor, and they did. They announced it saying, yes, it's the venue, and here we go. They don't have the money yet. And in all the pictures, which I'm going to show you now, in the announcements, there's no mention of Madrid and the central government. Now, can Barcelona pull this off by themselves? Maybe. But I, for one, still think this is going to end up in Auckland for any number of reasons. But the worst kept secret is now out. Grant Dalton himself said that in a couple of press interviews this morning, because, if you're trying to get cooperation with cities and the Comunidad, the region of Catalonia in which Barcelona is situated, you'd say, okay, guys, don't anybody say anything. Keep it quiet. We'll all make a joint announcement, and we'll put your pictures in. No, they couldn't do it. The mayor was out front over the weekend. Then once she was out front, other officials were out, and it became a bun fight in the media, as you all know. But, of course, we heard this last week. And, by the way, Barcelona of Cork, Malaga, and, God forbid, Jeddah, they were the best. Barcelona is the best alternative other than Auckland. Now, the Corkites, if that's a word, the Irish up in the beautiful city of Cork, the oldest yacht club in the world, they pulled their bid over the weekend. They withdrew it, having been tipped off, I'm sure, that they were not going to get selected. Malaga came out and said, well, we'd love to do it, but we're not ready to do it until 2025. So we're pulling our bid as well, because they want to do it in 2024, which is, again, what we've been telling you. And by the way, we speculated on Friday, and this was just really a guess by me, that it would be in September, October, and indeed that's what they announced today. That's good for a lot of reasons. It's after the Olympics, right? It's after the Olympics. It's also in a little bit cooler period of the year, because it's bloody hot in Barcelona in May, June, July, August, September. I, having lived in Valencia, just, an hour and a half, 2-hour drive down the coast, same weather, although there's actually more breeze in Valencia, and the further south and west you go in Spain, that's the west kind of cone, the end of the Med, there's more and more breeze. And they said that they expect 9 to 15 knots of breeze daily in Barcelona in September and October. I don't know who's feeding them that weather report, but I checked with a couple of one of our weather gurus this morning, and that just isn't the case. So the worst kept secret is now out. It was announced about 6:30 this morning, our time, and they released this video. It's a beautiful video. Culturally, as you all know, it's one of the greatest cities on the planet. Back in what was it, the '90s or the noughts, when they said, what was that big campaign for everybody wanting to go to London, something, Hail Britannia or something, and a big tourist campaign. And then that sort of shifted, even as we were living in Valencia, to where all the young people and a lot of the big tourist flows were going to Barcelona.
Yeah.
Because it really is such a terrific cultural city. It's warm year round. The food, you've got the Northern African influence, you've got the Spanish influence, you've got then the Catalan influence, and lots of other cultures from around the world. So it is a Las Ramblas, which is the big long avenue. It's one big party night after night, and you walk down La Rambla, and then down the little side streets are bars and tapas bars and restaurants and so on. It's a little bit like Champs-Élysées in France, in Paris, as a wonderful thoroughfare. But so is Queen Street in New Zealand.
Yes.
So we're headed, reportedly, to Barcelona. But I still think it's a bit dodgy that it's going to happen there. Certainly a beautiful city, and let's review the press release as it was issued early this morning.
It's a great press release.
Our time. Yeah, it was very upbeat and positive, but you would expect that. A nice video.
Yeah.
Emirates Team New Zealand and the RNZYS are pleased to announce Barcelona in the region of Catalonia as the host venue for the 37th America's Cup, to be held, as we speculated last Friday, in September and October of 2024. A mixture of history and modernity, Barcelona is one of the most iconic and attractive cities in the world and will become the first venue in the world to host both an Olympic Games and an America's Cup event. True, the '92 Olympics were there, and it was a terrific event. It was hot, and I was the American member of the jury, on the race jury for the yachting regatta, the sailing event in '92, and I can guarantee you we had a lot of fun, but there wasn't much wind. It was pretty light. We'll talk about that some more. The press release continues. America's Cup defender Emirates Team New Zealand CEO Grant Dalton is delighted to announce Barcelona as the host venue after a long and competitive venue selection process. Quote, Barcelona really is one of the most recognized cities in the world, so to have the ability to host the most recognized sailing event in the world is hugely exciting. As defender of the AC, we have always felt the responsibility to grow the event, the audience, and the sport of sailing, and my wallet. Oh, that's not in that. That's not in there. My pocketbook. On a global scale, and certainly having the event hosted in a significant city such as Barcelona will allow us to propel the growth trajectory. Wow. This is a word salad. On the global sporting stage. When thinking ahead to the 37th America's Cup and the AC35's racing within a few hundred meters of the Barcelona beach waterfront and race village fan engagement zones, which is true. They can race right off the breakwater. It will be nothing less than spectacular. Barcelona is a leading city in terms of sustainability and social impact, with ambitions to become Europe's digital and tech capital. And in some way, in some ways it already is. They have that huge World Telecoms
That's right.
conference there. I don't know what's happened during COVID, during the pandemic, but it has taken place there annually for a number of years. So the alignment with the America's Cup is clear. Its existing world-class facilities for racing, team bases, technical infrastructure, super yachts, and areas for the America's Cup event village to host fans, hospitality, media, as well as an average wind range of, 9 to 15 knots during the September and October race window, made the city completely fit for purpose. I agree with everything except that wind issue. And indeed, in spades, that's all true. Integral to the organization of the 37th America's Cup is the Challenger record Ineos Britannia and the Royal Yacht Squadron Limited, who have played an important part in setting the foundations of the next edition of the oldest trophy in international sport. Ineos Britannia team principal Sir Ben Ainslie said, quote, "We are delighted the iconic city," they're using your word, Julia, of Barcelona has been chosen to host the 37th America's Cup. The historic weather data for Barcelona shows what a fantastic sailing venue it will be. Yeah, right, Ben. The marina development and race area in Barcelona, we got to pronounce it Castellano, and will offer excellent shoreside facilities for the competing teams, alongside a great event village for fans of sports, needs to be an apostrophe in their oldest Why am I so critical?
Why?
Sports oldest international trophy to enjoy this once again. Iconic, Julia.
Yes.
Iconic.
Though I was just thinking, reliably windy, which San Francisco always is,
Except for Sunday.
except for the finals with the Grand.
And Barcelona is not reliably windy any more than Valencia was, and several of you pointed out in the comments about how many lost days. In fact, we almost lost a complete week in Valencia at the windiest time of the year, which was May. So alongside a great event, it will be the shore side will be great. There's no question about it. The sailing side is going to be somewhat suspect. Further details on the venue and the cup will be announced in due course. Quote, obviously, all of this news is announced in the shadow. I took this as a caveat, and this is well worded.
Mm-hmm.
In the shadow of the unfathomable, I like that word,
Mm-hmm.
unfathomable war in Ukraine, we are witnessing right now, which clearly puts everything in perspective for us, unquote, said Dalton. Quote, we sincerely hope there is a rapid improvement in that situation, and we would like to send our strong message of support to the people in Ukraine. During this period, we look forward to working in partnership with our host venue, Barcelona, and announcing further details in due course, which I took as a caveat, saying, this war could still be the pig, be a pig. It could cause this thing to go topsy. And I think Mr. Dalton was right, and I think it was nicely stated. Okay, so much for that release. There are lots of grip and grin photos that accompanied this release, including these gentlemen. I don't know who they are. Sorry, the captions were few. The mayor I know is on the left. Young woman, apparently very bright. And with Dalton, I again don't know who the other gentleman is because I couldn't find any lower thirds, any captions. But I do see that Matteo Denora is on the far right.
Oh, is that who that is?
Yeah, that's who that is with Daltz, who's third from the left, in what is, I guess, City Hall. I'm not even sure where the building is because they obviously put this together in, I won't say a rush, but they saw the news was getting out because of the mayor and whomever else, and we're releasing over the weekend the Comunidad, as they call it, Comunitat in Valenciano or in Catalan.
That must be a copy of the old mug.
Well, maybe there are a few of them. There are a few of them around. It might be, but again, the port area is extensive. Cruise ship terminals. There's a lot of hard stands. Stingray has been helping me point this out to you in recent weeks as we have started to focus in on Barcelona as the most likely venue. And again, as we told you on Friday, that it would be announced, and it is not only a tourist mecca, but a young people's mecca and a legacy. Paul Henderson wrote me when he said, is it really going to be Barcelona? And he said, you can thank the Olympics in '92 for having created the Port Olympico, which is this patch of water. That it was a huge Olympic basin, which was used for the '92 games. And if I can go to camera 4 here, this hard stand all along here was the boat park. This wasn't here in the middle. That's now a marina, obviously, having filled in, and everybody launched their boats, all the, 8, 9, however, 10 classes maybe we had, all here. The Med is here to the right. And these two, I'm going to go back on this slide. You can see this big beach here to the left. Beautiful. It's one of the few big cities, like Valencia, it's one of the few big cities that has an urban beach, a beach right in town. And then up north of town is Sitges, which is a famous, more exotic beach, shall we say. And this is a beautiful marina. It's not where the cup's going to take place because it's now filled in with restaurants, nightclubs, and so on. It is Porto Olympico, and a beautiful facility. These 2 towers I was mentioning were the athletes' village. All the athletes stayed there during the '92 Cup, and they walked down and out and lined the breakwater here because we were running the racing right off the break, at least the match racing, not the fleet racing, but the Soling match racing that I was umpiring took place right off the breakwater, and we for once had athletes in other sports watching our sport, and it was a magnificent feeling.
It would be.
And there's the Real Club Náutico de Barcelona is a terrific club. They have a Grand Prix, one of the most popular Grand Prix, Formula One Grand Prix in the world, in the spring, late spring, late spring, May, I guess, from memory. Always one of the favorites. The Royal Automobile Club of Spain is located here, and on and on and on. Terrific city, lots of world-class hotels, and you can fly there. You can fly there from just about anywhere, nonstop from New York, nonstop from other cities in North America and across the globe. Mm-hmm. So there's no question that of all the places they were talking about holding it, Barcelona is the best, other, in my never so humble opinion, than Auckland. La Sagrada Familia, which was started in 1926 by Gaudi, still not complete. The plan is to have it done by 2026, the 100th anniversary, is a huge tourist attraction and a magnificent structure. And it'll be fun to be there. Let's go to the comments here for a sec before we get into some of the reports. Okay, I'm going to go all the way to the bottom of the comments and work back up because there's so many of them. Steve Gruber saying, I will miss having my bags lost in Madrid when flying to Valencia. Yeah, because you can fly there nonstop for the most part. David James, and maybe an honest contractor is an oxymoron, but a corrupt contractor for the infrastructure. Okay, you guys are talking business. No one can control the weather. John Emmett is saying, what else would the British have to talk about otherwise? Julie, what other comments struck your fancy?
A little earlier one, New Zealand must think they've cracked the code for lower liftoff. Seems to speeds to have the race in September. They're going to force the competition to displacement and flyby.
Yeah, maybe. Well, it is going to be light. It will definitely be lighter than what they'd hoped for. There's regatta weather. Yeah, it's never like this when we have a regatta. When is the venue choice official? Well, I think they RNZ think it's official right now, Ed Worley. Or can they stretch out the decision today and delay any lawsuits? By the way, Mr. Dalton said this morning in a couple of press discussions that he is, they're just laying out this AC40, the Youth America's Cup, which presumably also be in Barcelona, but he's laying out these so-called pre-regattas, one of which he said to the media, he had a little media scrum this morning with some European media. He said, will be in Jeddah, which I don't
really?
Think, I don't think that's very wise. I doubt that'll happen.
Yeah, but it is interesting that there's going to be a Women's America's Cup in the
apparently.
Yeah,
we'll see. Sail flow history actually shows 10 to 15 knots 75% of the days in September, October. This is from data over 10 years. Steve Gruber is saying, thank you, Steve. Replying to John Schaefer, maybe Neil and I can flip the next. Okay, they're back and forth, the flip-flop bar, which is a famously good bar. Mayor isn't that young, Tom. Well, she looks young to me. James, Mateo looks more pleased than everybody else. Yeah, I'm sure he probably is, Stinger, and you know why. The war, a fly in the ointment. Maybe that's a better way of putting it, Jonathan Frank. Clark Chapin, it'll be tough to get all the super yachts to show up if they're still impounded in fairness. And sundry ports. John Schaefer, I would recommend that if you travel to Barcelona, he was spelling it phonetically, pack an extra liver in your luggage. It is frowned upon to place it in carry-on luggage because x-ray machines pick it up and it scares the hell out of the other passengers when security opens the bag. I spent a weekend there in one night. Okay, let's go to Daltz and what he's had to say, Grant Dalton. And I will not be on his Christmas card list anytime soon after what I said to Radio New Zealand this morning about all this. He was asked by our longtime friend from Hamburg and writer for Yacht.de, Europe's biggest sailing magazine, will Team New Zealand, Tatia Pagorni, she asked, will Team New Zealand lose home field advantage by defending in Barcelona, which is something we have asserted any number of times on this show. Dalt said, quote, no, I am now convinced that staying, now listen to this. This is a PR spin if I ever heard it. I quote, I am now convinced that staying at home as a team, but he's good, is a total disadvantage. Why do I say something like that? Good question. I think that a home game fuels complacency. The family birthday party quickly becomes more important than the current work on foil design, and the team loses focus. That becomes the cliches to classics. We're not best as defenders, we're best as challengers in attacking mode. We're going to be a lot razor sharper away from home. Of course, it's for them much nicer for fans when we sail at home, but not for the team as a winning machine. Then Tatiana, Tati we call her, in addition to the already accepted challengers, are there any new ones in sight? Yes, it looks like it. We're close to one, but it's up to you to announce it yourself. Most will know you. This is a German translation from English into German and then back to English. Others besides this one, I don't know, but it can't be ruled out either. We'll tell you who that is here in a few minutes, who that next new challenger is. Tati Pagorni, a longtime friend from Hamburg, Germany, former neighbor, writing on the yacht.de website this morning. Now, news out of Italy covering this announcement, not quite so friendly. And this is what OA Sport, one of the big general sports websites, had to say. In the headline, America's Cup, the vile money grips New Zealand. Where is the respect for one's country? And for 70 million, I think they meant euros more, and this is Stefano Villa writing today on the 29th in OA Sport. The vile money preferred to national pride. Hard cash before the homeland. A dishonorable choice for authentic mercenaries. And for authentic mercenaries. We would like to label Team New Zealand's decision this way. They had the opportunity to defend the old pitcher, the old mug, in the friendly waters of Auckland, and instead took the America's Cup a long way from home, opting for the Mediterranean Sea. A decidedly questionable stance by the association, the team led by CEO Grant Dalton, which has no other motivation than that of cash it will take home by relocating the oldest sports competition in the world from the Hauraki Gulf to Barcelona, 19,000 kilometers away from their lair and from their audience, with 70 million euros more in his pocket, it must be said. I don't think it was quite that much, but we'll see what the numbers are. But is it really worth it? The discontent in New Zealand is palpable. Sailing is a national sport. Peter Burling and his companions represent a pride like the All Blacks, the national rugby team, as you all know, and the regattas will be staged in a couple years in Catalan, Catalonia, can be followed only in the middle of the night in and around Auckland. They're 12 hours ahead of us in Europe, which is true. Team New Zealand is violating the keeper's right to compete at home. Alinghi had to do it in 2007 and 2010 as Switzerland is landlocked. Oracle's Americans did too, but moved to nearby Bermuda in 2017, notably losing to the Kiwis. And that was just as bad as what this is going to be. And I said so at the time as the bloody vice commodore.
You left the team, yeah.
of the Golden Gate Yacht. I almost wore my Golden Gate Yacht Club vice commodore's pullover today, in honor of this.
I've been at the game, yeah.
The Italians did not miss their support for Luna Rossa in the cold nights of 2021 with one conviction. If the boys of Max Serena had triumphed 12 months ago, the America's Cup would have been held off the Italian coast. The mercenary would find no proselytes. Interesting. Stefano Villa from Italy, I don't know the gentleman, writing on the oasport.it website today. And then there was this gentleman. It was big news in New Zealand this morning. They woke up to it. We woke up to it, actually. Saw it early our morning, so it's 3 hours earlier in New Zealand now. And then they rang me up as they had asked me over the weekend if I'd be available. And I had this to say on Radio New Zealand this morning.
As you just heard in the news has come out. Team New Zealand and the Royal New Zealand Yacht Squadron have rejected a $143 million bid from the New Zealand government and Auckland Council to host the next edition of the America's Cup in New Zealand. It's going to be held in Barcelona. When we speak sailing, we love to speak with Tom Eamon, who's with us. Tom Eamon, who's with us right now. Kia ora, Tom. How are you, sir?
Hey, good morning, Nathan. I'm depressed. How are you?
Sad, but well, is it? Hopefully, it's just the yachting news that's got you, not the rest of life, sir. To me, are you?
Well,
How big a surprise is this to hear that they're taking it away and sending it to Barcelona?
Well, as I announced on my show on TFE Live on Friday, it was going to be in Barcelona. The one hears that's what I was hearing, but I still think it's going to be in Auckland. They're going to take the cup to Europe where there's a war going on. Give me a break.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Grant Dalton has said that, this is great. He said holding the event in Barcelona would help grow the event on a global scale. Do you think that's really the motivation to take it there?
Of course not. Follow the money. The old movie Jerry Maguire. Follow the money. This is what this is about. Here's an event that belongs in New Zealand, is beautifully hosted by New Zealand. There is the money in New Zealand. But instead, it's going to Europe, they say. I still don't think it will go, Nathan, because I think that they don't have the money in Barcelona. This is provisional. They don't have the support of the central government in Madrid. I still think it will be back in Auckland.
Oh, okay. Because, with them announcing that, so the Catalonia region there, which said they're going to host it, why would that be at least where they think they're tentatively going to go to, Tom?
Well, that is the best venue of the others that were under consideration. Cork pulled out over the weekend. Malaga withdrew their bid over the weekend. Jeddah was impossible. The nail in that Jeddah coffin, if nothing else, was that terrorist attack during the Saudi Arabian Grand Prix on Friday. So Barcelona is the best of these other venues other than Auckland. I was a judge at the Olympics there in '92. It's light. It's a beautiful city. The air is a bit light. Auckland will still come to the fore. People in New Zealand are going to be so upset to see this announcement. There's plenty of dough. There's plenty of money behind this effort in New Zealand. It's the natural and proper place to do it, and I think this is still going to end up in Auckland.
One of the things, Tom, is obviously New Zealand is small. We don't have a huge economy. The government putting together $143 million to try and help Team New Zealand keep this. Is that a fair enough bid from the government?
More than fair, and there are plenty of people who would, in addition to Mark Dunphy and Jim Farmer and others, who would support this. And to take the cup, the iconic cup, the oldest trophy in international sports, away from the country that has poured time, effort. Look at how much time and effort and money and tears, blood, sweat, and tears, the Kiwi country, the nation, the sailing, not just the sailing community, but the entire nation have put into winning the cup and bringing it home, and now to send it offshore. This is an abomination. It's Crutonic.
Tom, it is always wonderful to hear from you. Let's hope our moods pick up soon. Thank you very much. So there he is, Tom Eamon. They're on the news. If you came in halfway through that and you go, what? Team New Zealand and the Royal New Zealand Yacht Squadron announcing that the region of Catalonia will host the 37th edition of the Cup in September and October of 2024. But Tom, who's always in the know and seems to know things a few more, says perhaps not.
Oh, well, it's actually, I was just telling Julia, it's the first time I've listened to the whole thing.
Yeah.
Thank you to Stingray again, who found the link just before we went to air, and I jammed it into the show. And I didn't even have time to listen to the whole thing myself, but you listened to it.
Yeah.
And you said it was okay.
Yeah.
You still think so?
Yeah.
Well,
I mean, you made your point.
well, yeah, and I said it's an abomination. It's Crutonic. I even got the word Crutonic into the interview. You're going to see that Crutonic showed up on Wikipedia.
Oh, did it?
It did.
Good.
Thank you, Jonathan Frank. Tell me if you think that was correct or Crutonic. Don Lunabos agrees. I think you're right. Tom GD is pulling a fast one to buy. Well, not to buy time. He's pulling a fast one to put money into his pocket. And I think he's also going to lose it. I think he's played right into the hands of Ineos team, Ineos Britannia now, if not also the Italians. And there's a dark horse who's looking not so dark anymore, and that's Alinghi.
Yes.
Ernesto, right?
Right.
I mean, Ernesto, he must have seen this, heard this coming, which is, I'm sure, one of the reasons he went in. Yeah, I was a little ragged when I did that interview. Thank you, Ed Worley. It was early this morning. I like joining in here as there's a wide variety of opinion. Yeah, and Gordon, I think, and a lot of Europeans will think this is wonderful because it's going to be close to home. You can fly down there. I mean, let's face it, you can fly down there on the weekends, go to the regatta for a few days, go home, and come back. Especially with some of these low costs, of course, with fuel, the price of airline fuel now, it's maybe not quite so low cost.
Yeah.
But any of you living in Europe will think this is great. Blake Middleton agrees. Thank you, Blake. Ted Ryman, I agree with you, Tom. I also believe it will still. You do. Thanks, Ted. Future isn't the same as it used to be. Andrew Pindar saying.
And no, and it never was. Yeah.
And Andrew has quietly been, I think, aware of what's going to happen. He wouldn't tell me anything. I kept trying, Julia, to squeeze it out of him, and he wouldn't say a darn thing, one way or another. Rob Sternstein, who really pronounces his name Sternstein, we learned over the weekend. I think Daltz is going to lose his money and control as this plays out. Julie Ahrens, why are you slandering Grant Dalton? The money is not going into his pocket. Julie, if you believe that, I've got a bridge in Arizona to sell you.
It's already been sold.
It's already been sold, yeah. The future's so bright, I got to wear shades, Gareth Evans is saying. You can't put enough lipstick on this pig to make it right, Bill Wingrove is saying. By the way, unless any of you has seen something else, since we've been on the air now for an hour, almost an hour, 47 minutes, I haven't seen anything from the other teams other than they're just repeating. They just shared and sent out the same original release from ETNZ/RNZYS. So what was interesting over the weekend, New York Yacht Club put out, this was really interesting, Julia. New York Yacht Club put out on their Facebook page over the weekend.
Yeah.
Said, oh yeah, well this rumor about it being in Barcelona, it's it's just a rumor. Don't count your chickens. They didn't quite say that. Don't count your chickens before they hatch, but it was that kind of
It's just a rumor.
Just pushed it back, and I don't know why they did that. Maybe they really believed it was not going to be.
Yeah.
But anyway, that was New York. So who else is commenting here? Lots of comments. Rob Sternstein. I like to say Sternstein, Rob. It's interesting that nobody has reacted to the news. Well, I think they're, to be fair, they're trying to get their arms around it. But by the same token, they're probably, some of them, not too happy with it. Although I'm sure Ineos is, and I'm sure Alinghi is. The sponsors and most New Zealand fans support ETNZ and understand the need to take it offshore to win a third successful America's Cup match. What astounds me, those who don't understand COVID and the effect it has on the world economy, the New Zealand tourism industry, and the availability of sponsorship, unbelievable. Well, Graham, I'm not sure what you mean by that. If you think he had to go offshore to get the money, it's simply, in my opinion, not true. Jonathan Frank, now here's an interesting opinion. Jonathan Frank is saying Daltz wants to lose the cup, I submit. He has his cash, time to get the monkey off his back.
That could be.
I don't think Daltz is that Machiavellian. I really don't think so. But I do firmly believe, as you all know.
You've said from the beginning. And
I've said for months, that if you go out, just like Golden Gate, when Oracle Team USA and Golden Gate went to Bermuda, and I quit, and they, first thing, lost. Mm-hmm. They lost. And I think Daltz is way off base when he says, we'll be focused harder. Yeah, right. Just like you were here in San Francisco in 2013. Right. Okay, Bermuda, yeah, you were focused there, but even there it was looking a little dodgy after you did the bow in. Team did a great job, ETNZ did, in Bermuda. But remember, you were not at the hometown of the defender. You were in bloody Bermuda. And there it almost did look like Russell and Larry were happy to get that off their backs, get on with SailGP. Who knows what that discussion was going on. Great to see the French K Challenge pushing through to the surface today. Andrew Pindar is saying, and at what point would the New Zealand government withdraw the offer of support? I don't know. John Emmett replying to Graham Swan, you mean when what did he say? I've lost that comment, Julia. When, the comments are coming fast and furious. David Rowe, Tom, now that the cup has been announced, maybe you could get Dalton on the show. I doubt that, but I will try. And the offer remains for Daltz or for Russell Green, who's been on the show, his rules guy, legal guy. I wonder what the percentage cut of the Barcelona E70 million raised is that Daltz gets to pocket. Yeah, well, okay. Well, you know how I feel. You know how Julia feels. And I just want to say again, in all those pictures that we showed you and all the press releases and all of the statements by public officials who love to get out in front of the news or with the news. Not one peep from Madrid, not one peep from the governing party up there, nothing about money from Madrid. And remember who controls the ports. So the port president was shown in the picture, and he said, "Oh, I'm all in for this," and no doubt he is. But this thing ain't over yet. And by the way, they haven't raised all the money. It's only promises of money. And when they have signed a host city agreement, and when the other teams have chimed in, and when, show me the money. As I said on that interview, show me the money. Okay, let's don't belabor this. A lot of you have comments. So if it goes to Barcelona, Steve Ross is saying, and TNZ loses, New Zealand citizens will never, citizens will never support Dalton again. Well, that's true. I think they won't support Dalton again now. I think they're going to lose a lot of Kiwi support.
He probably doesn't want it again.
Well, no, I think he does. I think they need the New Zealand support. He'll have New Zealand support from some people.
Does he really want to go through as head of the campaign again?
I don't know. How would you know? Isn't the signing on the 31st, John? No, John. They just said they would announce it on or before the 31st, which they've done. Will the contractors start with a promise of money, David James? When is the put up or shut up deadline for the Spanish guy? I don't know, Ed. I don't know. I do think, though, that Bill Wingrove and several others of you are saying up there is that if this goes offshore, if it really does leave Auckland and it goes to Spain, you won't get the cup back in New Zealand for a long time. And I do think Team New Zealand will lose, and maybe the Brits will win finally after 170 whatever years it is. And then who knows where it'll go from there. Has it been back to Newport since we lost it in 83? Has it been back to San Diego after we lost it in 95? Has it been back to San Francisco ever? No. Okay, now, as Andrew Pindar, he's always, as I said, he's on top of the news. Do you recognize that country's flag? He mentioned the French as being a prospective challenger. Well, that is true. And our old friend Stefan Candler, who was a challenger, headed up the challenge with Don Riley from France in 2007. Stefan posted on his Facebook page 8 or so hours ago, after being with several French teams very closely, I decided in 2001 to launch my own challenge in the 32nd edition of Valencia 2007. Part of a white leaf, this epic will have deeply marked me and proved that France is one of the few countries that has everything to win it. Sometimes you have to know how to wait for the right time to go again. It's been a year now that we've put together an incredible group to introduce ourselves on the starting line with the best French team ever, bringing together talent at the top of their art and exceptional technological. There's obviously a translation from French. Technological means. The 2022-2024 international competition schedule will be intense and fantastic, with 4 additional trophies to be won, not only the America's Cup, but the Women's, the Youth America's Cup, and the Sail GP circuit. I didn't know Stefan was involved in that. K Challenge, which has been the name of his team for Candler, aims to register, means to challenge, in the duration and leave a legacy by preparing for the future and training the talents of tomorrow. Therefore, many technological developments are also in the maps that will allow for major innovations that will continue to the ecological transition of transport. So says Stefan Candler on his Facebook page earlier today. So that's
interesting.
That's the other team, apparently, Julia.
Yeah.
The French team. They'll put your skills to good use.
Well, but they've, look what they've done with offshore sailing. They've just.
Well, yeah, but Stefan Candler's been in the Cup before, and frankly, his effort was lukewarm at best. If it hadn't been for Don Riley, I think he would have really struggled.
Well, he's had some time to think about it.
Yeah, he has, and we shall see. I hope he's good. Candler's French effort would need an LV to step up. Yes, Stingray, it would be. His dad was a French arms merchant, I think is fair to say. John Emmett, France caused a huge crash with NZL in the Sail GP. It was hard to watch. Yes, it was. Graham Sweeney, I hear the mayor of Barcelona is willing to sign for the AC only once a cathedral has been finished.
Oh.
Clever FOSI we have, Julia. The beginning of the end of New Zealand being a powerhouse in the sailing world, Bill Wingrove is asking. Gareth Evans, yeah, he thinks this is good. Gareth thinks this is good for GBR. What about lawsuits promised in New Zealand? I don't think there are going to be any lawsuits, Ted, about the venue.
Do you really not?
I do not. I really don't think so. I don't think, I could be wrong, but I don't think the idea of some people, my dear friend, our dear friend Hamish, thinks that it could well end up in court over the deed of gift. But he and I actually differ. He thinks the deed of gift can be read to say it has to be in the home waters of the defending club. I don't, absent mutual consent. A, I don't think that's true. B, I think there would be mutual consent with Ineos to do it in Barcelona if it came to that. So I don't think there's any lawsuits that will, and I hope not, because if the cup's going to happen,
no, I do too.
I want it to happen. I don't want it to end up in court again like it did in 88 and 92.
And I would just delay it, and that just complicates everything.
Well, there's a couple other comments here, Julia. Clark Chapin, we can bring back the old joke. Question, how can you tell if the French boat in the America's Cup is about to attack? The crew simultaneously extinguishes their cigarettes, and the joke really was, Clark, that they throw them overboard. I said that up there in the commentary at St. Francis the other day. How can you tell the French are about to attack? And that was in the old days of Newport, and that was true, by the way. Joyce Chiarella, let's look at the positive here. With all the TNZ Dalton fodder, we wouldn't get all the great comments here, and you wouldn't have such a fun show. Thanks, Joyce. America's what? Spangos is saying. That is, there's a lot of truth in all this because, Julia, as you know, the real worry in all this is that people have lost interest in the Cup. I mean, I sat there in the yacht club the other day with a past senior series past Commodore of St. Francis just before in the morning of day two, and I won't name him, but he said, "Tell me again. Well, I know New Zealand won again in 20, but where is it going to be, and who's sailing for them, and which of these people have lost interest in the bloody Cup? Will it rekindle?
Depends on where it is, probably.
Depends where it is. So back to France. I just want to, since this is the University of Sailing Illustrated, do you know, and I did not know this, but in preparing these slides this morning, it's seriously rare to see a country change its flag, especially with announcing it to the world. But it seems France's recent flag modification, this was in 2021, has slipped under everyone's radar for a whole year. The blue, believe it or not, and I checked again, the blue on France's flag has been reverted back to its original shade of navy to honor the French Revolution. The change was initiated by President Emmanuel Macron last year when the flags featuring its new navy shade were hoisted up in the presidential palace. The blue shade was originally changed to a lighter blue in 1976 to match, believe it or not, the EU flag. Can you believe that?
I can
had
believe
no
that.
idea. But did you know that about the flag?
No, I didn't.
I didn't either. Regardless, vive la France. I hope Stefan Candler gets there, and I hope he's strong, because the challengers need strong teams, not Crutonic teams. And K does not stand for Crutonic. It stands for Candler, Stefan Candler, and his dad, who is, as I said, a very wealthy guy. Okay, there's a few more comments. And the white is to honor surrendering in World War I and II. That's cruel, Fog Machine. Surely France is the lured boat. Yeah, I had the right of way over New Zealand. Okay, let's don't get into that. Blake Middleton, however, is agreeing. Like the former St. Francis Yacht Club Commodore, I've lost interest in the AC, truly. Any other comments up there, Julia? We should read. Here is a perspective. Okay, this is Baton Rouge, who's a FOSI living in Charleston, a good guy, smart guy. Grant got Ineos to be a much bigger contributor to the next Cup as a challenger. Then Grant moves the Cup to a city that could saddle Ineos with more challengers to knock off burning more money along the way. Yeah, but it could be that Ineos is Baton Rouge. It could be that Ineos is helping to fund this and just doesn't want to say so, and that's how they're going to bridge some of the
To fund what?
Barcelona.
Oh.
because it's close to home. It's less expensive for
Yeah.
them. It's easy to bring sponsors down there. So,
Yeah.
I mean, I think this is a godsend for Ineos Britannia and for. I haven't seen anything from Luna Rossa Prada Pirelli other than that very strong article out of Italy, which I'm sure was a personal opinion. It was an opinion piece in Italian publication. This day in history, Commodores, ladies and gentlemen, the 29th of March, besides being my beloved sister's birthday, Ruth Ann Eamon. What happened? This ties it all together. What happened on this day, Julia, in 1845? Here's your first clue. See how nicely we've tied. That's Paris. See how nicely we've. We have to put these segments together in some kind of an order so they at least have some semblance of sense. On this day in 845 AD, do you see those ships? You know what kind of ships those are? 845, 9th century.
Yeah, the Viking invasion.
Exactly right. You are smart. You and David James. The Fire of London, Steve Gruber's. That's a good guess. Matthias Collins has it. The Viking invasion, and Graham Sweeney has it too. Vikings. Exactly right. Vikings lay siege. They actually laid siege to Paris, and I think those ramparts, that picture, which is a later somebody's artist rendition, was a bit croutonic, according to Wikipedia. But on this month of March, and apparently this day was the epic day, Vikings siege of Paris in 845. It's sacked by the Viking raiders, probably under this guy, Ragnar Lodbrok, who collects a huge ransom in exchange for leaving.
Oh, and that's what he was after.
That's what he was after. So don't tell me my Norse ancestors weren't clever. And I'm wondering if that's what maybe Daltz is doing. He's laying siege to Auckland by naming Barcelona to collect a ransom. We shall see. Or is he collecting a ransom from Julie Aarons is going to be really mad at me now.
Yeah, she is. She's already probably really mad at you.
I'm sorry. The Bloody Vikings, Steve Gruber is saying, yep. Fire of London was 1666. Rollo, Graham Sweeney's got the history right. Vikings sacking of Paris. Yeah, you all got that. I wonder how many people, Julia, go on now and Google this stuff before we
they should
go to air. Now, I ask you, in this Viking related to this and back to sailing, and specifically to Newport, Rhode Island, we have a correct or croutonic segment related to all this, which brings us back once again to sailing, not only the Seine River in Paris and Viking ships and Paris. Now, apparently, French are challenging for the America's Cup again. This, according to Wikipedia and others, are the territories and voyages of the Vikings, and I don't know if you can see the dates, but the 900s in Normandy when they went into France, and the 800s before that down in the Med, Dublin before that, and then across to Greenland and finally to Vinland, which was what they called North America. I don't know how far they really got. I guess they got to Morris Stevens' part of the world. But there's been a lot of speculation that they actually got to the East Coast, or at least Northeast, New England. And this structure, do you know what that is? In the Northeast of the what is today
it's like
the
a water
US.
tower.
That is, in fact, Pindar is saying Scarborough is originally a Viking town. Maybe it still is with Pindar there. Just teasing, Andrew.
Yes.
845 AD, the original Viking river cruise.
Oh.
Take the dollars and run, Ed Worley. Back to the tower. Can you identify this tower? This is a 1894 photo. Who knows?
It looks like a water tower to me.
Pindar says York is a Viking name, replying to Pindar, home of the next America's Cup.
Mm-hmm.
That tower, come on, you sailors. Captain Jack will know that. Yes, the Vikings made it to Newfoundland, Ed Worley is saying.
Mm-hmm.
I guess they did. Well, this tower is the Newport Tower in the spiritual heart of yacht racing in this country, Newport, Rhode Island. It's a photo. Yeah, Spangos, John Spangos, he's there in Newport. The photo circa 1894. No, Blake Middleton, it's not the Minnesota Vikings, your football team. Is it a lighthouse, Gordon Smith? No, it's the Newport Tower, which exists today. This is a photo from 1894. But in 1837, Danish archaeologist Carl Christian Raff proposed a Viking origin for this tower in his book, however you pronounce that, in
Antiquity.
Latin. You speak Latin? Whatever that is.
Yeah.
American Antiquities, partly based on his research of the inscriptions on the Dighton Rock near the mouth of the Taunton River, which is over on the east side of Newport. This hypothesis is predicated on the uncertainty of the southward extent of the early Norse explorations of North America, particularly in regard to the actual location of Vinland, which is what the Vikings called, apparently this part of the world. Raffin's popularization of the theory led to a flurry of interest and proofs of Norse settlement in the area. Henry Wadsworth Longfellow incorporated into one of his poems. There is the tower as it exists magnificently today in
Great.
Turo Square. It is very nice. So I ask you, correct or Crutonic, is the Newport Tower, was it built by the Vikings? As Stingray is saying, it takes a pillage to raise a child.
Oh, Stingray.
Is that Newport Tower, was it built by the Vikings, as many people to this day still suspect?
Mm-hmm.
Correct or Crutonic?
Could be.
Well, we went to Wikipedia for the answer. That great authority. Ed Worley, they found Viking ruin stones in North America. No one knows, Spangos says. Ed Worley says, nope, he has the right answer. And here's the answer. The Newport Tower is also known as the Old Stone Mill. Gordon Smith's got it right. He says Crutonic Vikings didn't build stone in that manner.
I was going to, that's what,
And he
gonna be
is
my
right.
question.
It's
Yeah.
also known as the Old Stone Mill. It's a round stone tower located in Truro Park in Newport, Rhode Island. The remains of a windmill built in the mid-17th century. It has received attention due to speculation that it is actually several centuries older and thus represent evidence of pre-Columbian, meaning pre-Christopher Columbus, transoceanic contact. Carbon dating shows this belief is
Crutonic.
Crutonic. Did you see that?
Yeah.
Crutonic has
Yeah.
even made it out of Wikipedia.
Oh, is that
That's
really?
that's right out of Wikipedia. That's a cut and paste out of Wikipedia.
Oh, I'm proud of you.
Gordon Smith, Crutonic. Vikings didn't build in stone that manner, built by the Masons. Fog Machine is saying.
Mm-hmm.
So I was proud to see that in there. It actually looks
yes.
like Norman architectural style. And you know what? Julie Aarons is close, I think. I was just so proud to see. I was going to end the show on that.
Oh,
I was
yes.
so
Well,
happy to
that's.
see that.
I-
And it's
I
even
think
in bold. You see that?
I'm really.
Wikipedia. This belief is Crutonic.
I love it.
And if you think Wikipedia used that word Crutonic, you will be Crutonic, because that is one of my more clever cut and pastes of putting Crutonic over incorrect. If they didn't say that. Okay, that was just for fun this morning. So Julie is close. This is what they think the Newport Tower is based on. There's nothing in Norse architecture that's similar to the Newport Tower in size or appearance. However, this 17th century windmill near Chesterton in England shares many characteristics with the Newport Tower.
It does.
Spangos John saying, Norse doesn't matter anyway. The Greeks were here first everywhere. Well, the oldest Greek temple is in Newport. Newport was a great bastion of religious freedom. Those, they came down. One of the Truro synagogue, Truro Square is named after it.
Yeah.
It's one of the oldest Jewish synagogues in the country, if not the oldest in the country. So Newport's quite a great town. A lot of different cultures, and they have this tower from whence nobody's quite sure where it came. So it's okay. So you're all getting it. So it's TNZ tilting at windmills in Spain. Pretty architecture, Peggy Litzer. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Clark Chapin, the Newport Tower also doesn't look anything like the old tower in Cork, which dates from the same era, plus or minus a few centuries.
Yeah.
Okay, let's do a Bravo Zulu. Let's do Sail GP, a reprise here. Bravo Zulu to everybody involved. It was, without doubt, a successful weekend, notwithstanding the final race on Sunday. But Saturday was windy and sunny and beautiful. I was up on the race deck at St. Francis doing the commentary for the club was packed, Julia.
Yep.
And it felt like finally,
Yes. Open.
we'd come out of COVID.
Yes.
Things were open. There were a big crowd on the shore. I mean, a big crowd,
Yeah,
almost America's Cup size crowd.
Yeah, the Chronicle said there were 9,000 people there.
On Saturday and Sunday, each day.
They didn't say each day.
Yeah, it was a bit of a demolition derby.
No, it would have
Ed
been on
Worley.
Saturday because it was in Sunday's
It was
paper.
in Sunday's paper.
Yeah.
Well, in fact, I don't think it's straight. Excuse me. I think there were actually fewer people on Sunday because it was overcast,
And
threatened
cold.
of rain. Oh, it was chilly. But it was chilly. It was warmer Saturday. You're right.
Yes.
But it was supposed to blow 20 to 30 on Sunday, and it never did. It came later. It came about 7 or 8
did.
o'clock at night, and it rained all night. But it was like a lot of these fronts. It was delayed.
Yes.
It was late. It was a late front.
Yes.
It was a huge success. It was a great event. Bravos alluded to them. As you probably all know, the three finalists were Australia, Japan, and the U.S. Three Australian skippers, Tommy Slingsby, Nathan Outteridge, and Jimmy the Spitfire Spithill. They made it on the strength of all of their results, not only at this regatta, but all the previous regattas in 2021, 2022 that culminated here in San Francisco. In that final race, as I like to call it, they called it the Grand Finale or Finale. And of course, it was won handily by Australia, by Tom Slingsby and co. They were crowned the SailGP champions of season 2 after a crazy day, to put it mildly, a crazy day of racing on San Francisco Bay. This is the official SailGP release. They still haven't put out a video 2 days later summarizing this, which I was disappointed in, or if they have, it's happened while we were on the air. Australia, go ahead.
Yeah, Fog Machine says, do you believe there really was a whale Sunday, as they say, picks, or it didn't happen? But yes, because the whales were migrating that day, and they were underwater.
Well, they were on the surface too. I'm
Yeah.
quite sure they were seen. I don't think they would have stopped the race.
Oh no, they were seen.
Well, it was a whale of a delay. Sorry.
I know.
Let's go back here. Australia have won the SailGP championship for a second successive year, beating Japan and the U.S. in the Grand Finale, the final. The reason I call it the final is because there's a bar here in the marina that I've never been to, but a lot. Have you been to?
Oh yes, but you don't have to go.
Called the final. It's
Yeah.
a bit of a dive bar, to say the least, but a lot of sailors do end up there.
Yes, because of the name.
The final, which is what I called it all weekend, this final race.
Yeah.
In a crazy incident-filled day in San Francisco, the Aussies and driver Tom Slingsby, who won the inaugural championship in 2019, defeated incredibly tough conditions to win the entire Mubadala, I can finally say it, Mubadala Sail Grand Prix event here, before overcoming Nathan Outteridge's Japan and Jimmy Spithill's USA in the winner-takes-all final race. Crazy day on the bay saw collisions between France and New Zealand and Spain and the USA, while 2 races were abandoned and restarted, including the grand final itself, due to a whale entering the race course. But once the race was restarted, the Aussies overcame all this adversity to prove their talent once again, and wild cheers greeted their lifting of the championship trophy in the San Francisco race village afterwards. Quote, "We've never really seen this caliber of fleet anywhere in the world," unquote, said Slingsby. Quote, "You always talk about," quote, "who is the best sailor around the world," unquote, but to be here with, I guess the quote continues, "but to be here with all even boats makes it," even boats, meaning one design. Well, they're not quite even, but almost.
And supposedly, even with talent and
spit it out.
Yeah.
No, they're not even in talent. Tommy Slingsby's team is way ahead of the others. But his point, you're right, and you were
It's
right.
supposed to be, yeah.
The boats are even, or essentially even.
Yeah.
They're busting their picks to make them as even as possible. You've never seen this caliber of fleet anywhere in the world. You always talk about who is the best sailor around the world, but to be here with all even boats, now I put the emphasis on the right word, makes it huge for me that Australia came out on top, notwithstanding that all 3 sailors are originally from Australia. Nathan now is living in New Zealand. He's going to sail for ETNZ next time. He's been signed on. And, of course, Jimmy has been living here in the States for a long time, married to an American, living in San Diego, member of San Diego Yacht Club. His kids go to school here, born here, I guess, and going to school in San Diego, and is steering for the American SailGP team. We've never really seen this before. Yep, we can call ourselves the best sailors in the world. That is more important than money. Glory lasts forever, and it really feels like that. Nice quote from Tom. I don't think that's unheard of. The Americans, what happened to Jimmy Spithill? Well, you heard about the collision he had with Spain, despite losing in the final. It was incredible that the U.S. even managed to race at all, having suffered serious hull damage when the Spanish crashed into their boat during the opening race of the day. But despite rapid repair work ensuring they could race and a huge number of fans cheering them on from the shore, which is true, Spithill's team only managed a third-place finish in the final, continuing his record of never having actually won a Sail GP event. Now, what was croutonnic was that on Friday, the Spanish team fired Phil Robertson, who's been sailing the boat, and the team's been doing better. He's helped drag them along as a new, fresh team. They fired him, Phil Robertson, and installed, as we told you on Friday's show, Jordi Schammer, who's the 470 whiz from Spain. He's a very good sailor, but he's not had any time on the wheel. Goes out, is kind of crashing about, although he did win a race on, what was it, Sunday? Did he win one of the races Sunday? So he did win a race, but he also crashed into, badly, sailed right up and over the transom of Jimmy Spithill, and they had to switch some rudders around. Jimmy didn't sail the last race of the 5 fleet races, trying to get his boat ready to sail because he'd already qualified to go into the final for the $1 million winner-take-all race. So that was a shame that happened. And, full marks to Jimmy and his team. But they really also had a bad, to be fair, on Saturday, they couldn't get out of their own way. I think they were 7th or 8th overall. I've got my piece of paper here with some standings after 7 races, or after 3 races on Saturday. They really weren't quick. And Tommy Spithill and his team have been quick the whole time, this whole period. And remember, I still think Slingsby is the best foiling sailor in the world, and he's the Moth world champion, winning, I don't know how many of those Moth worlds now he's won, the foiling monohull, and he's just fabulous. And Magnus agrees, and any number of others of you agree, so bravo Zulu to his team. Now, I don't know why we didn't get a picture of their whole team, but I couldn't find one except on the boat, and then they had some people that weren't really on the racing team. But as Australia celebrate their back-to-back successes, having won Season 1, they must also start preparing for their new title defense, with Season 3 starting in just over a month, with the Bermuda Sail Grand Prix taking place on 14-15 May. So that was a nice way to wrap that up. Bravo Zulu to Kyle, Jason Waterhouse, Sam Newton, who's there as we look at Tom. That's Tommy in the middle, Sam Newton. Kinley Fowler, I don't know where he is. I don't know if he sailed I think he sailed in every race. And then Nina Curtis, who sailed as tactician, there behind my lower third. I'll take that back out so you can see her. And Tommy sung her praises in the prize giving. So bravo Zulu to them, to their entire team, their supporters as well. And Julie Aarons is saying moths are best training for the bigger foiling boats. I agree. Replying, Jonathan Frank, sounds like an excuse when you are slow. Slingsby to America. No, Slingsby, I think, is Slingsby, I think, Mark Reed, is with American Magic. They haven't signed him, or if they have, they haven't announced it, but that's apparently going in that direction. Ed Worley saying the closure rate of boats maneuvering CLGP will continue to cause collisions. Yes, it will. Protecting their assets. France was asleep. GBR had been on starboard for ages, and they took no action to allow NZL to keep clear. John Emmett, I think you're right. Morris Stevens commenting there down at the bottom. Do not get me wrong, I do not believe Phil should have been fired. However, slowing the new skipper to sail this regatta, it will give them valuable experience, for the new season. Fair enough. And they knew that Phil was going. Maura Stevens is right. And of course, she's Canadian, and she knows that Phil now is going up to Canada, the journeyman that he has been, just because he was with, who was he with? China, the China team, former China team in SailGP. Yeah. And he's going up now to help Canada in their inaugural season with their team that starts in Bermuda next month.
That'll be good.
It also dropped them from 4th overall to 2nd to last. Yeah, in this regatta, that's true. It will cost American Magic $3 million. Yeah, it's going to be expensive, Julie, for Tommy wants a lot of money, or so one hears. Chris Bulger, don't think Tom could touch Glenn on a foiling A, meaning an A-class catamaran. Those guys share the top of the foiling leaderboard unless you count Glenn's 2 AC wins. Yeah, good points. Lots of good points here. Hi, Mark Husted. Sorry I'm late, just listening and reading the comments, replying to Jonathan Frank. Yeah, the other thing I would note here, and Julie, if you disagree with me, say so. Ben Ainsley did not acquit himself. The British team did not acquit themselves well in this series. They were kind of middle of the pack. Did they win one race finally? I can't remember.
I don't remember that.
But
yeah.
Ben, if I were, who was the late great comedian here in the U.S. who was acerbic and would say to Frank Sinatra, Frank, you're great, I love you, but you're done. You're terrible. You're going to quit because you're over. It's over with.
Yeah.
Don Rickles.
Oh, Don Rickles.
And if Ben were sitting in your chair right now, I'd say, Ben, I love you to death. You're the winningest sailor in the history of the Olympics, winningest Olympic sailor. You should get off the boat, let Goody and let these other guys now race the boat.
Yeah.
GBR won a race in SF. Yes, the first race. Thanks, Rob Schernstein. I remember they did win a race. But I think Ben should be running the team. He's got tremendous knowledge, tremendous experience. He's the team principal. It's a huge job to try to steer, to be the team principal, to deal with sponsors, to deal with the media, deal with his owner, with Jim Ratcliffe. That takes a lot of time and energy, so I hope he gets off the boat. Remember, Goody and Ben are the same sailing age. Yeah, John Emmett, fair enough. But who's been doing and winning in the Moths? John Emmett. Explain me that. Answer me that. Ben won the race on Saturday. I love Ben. He's a longtime friend, but I think he ought to get off the boat. Julia?
I have no opinion about that.
Okay. Agreed, but he can't give up the thrill. I think he will. He's a bright boy. I think he will give it up. Rob Sternstein. Speaking of Rob Sternstein, let's see. Blake's got a good comment here. I first met Tom Slingsby and Nathan Outteridge at the Heaven Can Wait regatta in Lake Macquarie down there with Jody. Both were among about 7 Moths racing in one-lap dash. Nathan was the lead Moth sailor then, and Tom was fairly new to the Moths. He's obviously come a long way. John Emmett, I would say Glenn is probably the best foiler in the world. Not sure he does Moths. Well, he is Glenn Ashby, of course, who is with ETNZ again, and a mainstay of that team. Bravo Zulu to the Australians, and really to the wholesale GP.
Yes, it
effort.
was really well done.
You can't. The weather was crotonic, even though despite the predictions.
Yeah.
But they did, to their credit, they put the big rigs on. A lot of people say, if it's going to blow 20 to 30, they shouldn't put the big rigs on. But they were right.
Yeah.
In discerning that they should put the big rigs on, the big wings on. Put Goobs and Parco on any other boat, and they're at the top of that fleet. Jody's agreeing with me. I think. Ben will get off the boat once he has the event under his belt, Graham Sweeney is saying. Ted Ryman is saying, I don't agree. Ben has a lot to give before he stops. Okay. I think, Krasimir, here's an interesting comment. I think next season SailGP will be all GBR and NZL. Well, we'll see. The regatta was great, no question. Julia Aaron's agreeing. And let's leave it at that. It was a terrific regatta. Bravo Zulu to these guys and to the whole effort. It was entertaining. It was fun, even more so than I expected. Finally, I can't leave SailGP weekend without saying that we did, in fact, have an open house here at the Beach Street Yacht Club for the FOSI at 6 o'clock Saturday evening, and there were a pile of people over here. We had tequila and soda and a few other cocktails and a few poo-poos, and some of the FOSI stayed here well past midnight, despite it. We were delighted they did. It was good fun.
Yeah,
we had a little invitation on the TV here in the America's Cup Salon when they entered. Welcome, FOSI, to the Beach Street Yacht Club. And then we carried on back in the grill room. And I won't name everybody that was there. They may not want to be named. But we did have a lot of fun. We watched some of the SailGP replay from that day. We had a cocktail or two. And then the next morning, Julie, I told you we saw in the Sunday morning,
yes,
down in the on Chestnut Street, we saw Sandy and Peter Taylor, who were here late, with Jeffrey Peterson, who had bailed out early, and he had a bad ear infection, but he's much better now, I'm pleased to say. And we had a lot of fun. good times had by all. We
Yes.
thank all of you who came over, and we hope you enjoyed it.
It is fun to see and face to face people you think you know really well and have never seen and talked to. So it
Well,
was
and
great
what's fun too, this community that we have, thanks to everybody who's here and who's watching, but we talk about other of the FOSI who are on here right now, who none of whom some of whom we haven't met face to face, none of whom these folks have probably met face to face. Sternstein, as he pronounces his name, was a hoot.
Yes, indeed, and with lots of life stories to tell.
And there were great stories from that day and beyond. Everything is taken the overall season. That looks like that's the coffee roastery, David James, down. That is indeed the coffee roastery down on Chestnut Street, where we coincidentally found Sandy and Peter Taylor there when Jeffrey and I went there to get a bun for Julia and myself and Jeffrey before we carried on to do the commentary again over at St. Francis. And St. Francis was packed. It was packed up on the race deck, and there was, it was let the good times roll. It really did feel like
old days,
like we were out of COVID. We'll see. I know you're having a tough time of it in China, and again in the UK. I think you have record numbers of cases. This stuff is apparently more communicable. As I said, Julia, you can look crosswise at somebody,
catch it,
catch it. It's like measles. It's that communicable. Transmissible is the word that Andrew McIrvin tells me I should use.
Yes.
But it's apparently not very deadly, especially if you've had 3 or now 4. They're talking about a 4th jab. You going to have a 4th jab?
No.
You're not. Because the last jab you struggled with a little bit. Maybe it was coincidental. Maybe you'd had a cocktail the night before or 2 after you.
Nope.
Was I a bad influence? That's it. We get to the D block. Whiskey Tango Foxtrot. And speaking of mermaids, I have only one image to play in this segment. You know who that is?
Yes.
That is, I'm going to call him forever Harry Sussex. I refuse to call him Prince Harry or whatever he is of Sussex. He is the crouton of the day.
I'm sure he appreciates that.
And I'm sorry, but Whiskey Tango Foxtrot, and in his case, Negat. In naval parlance, there's actually a negative Bravo Zulu called Negat for code flag N, and they do hoist it. And it's pronounced over the radio, Negat Bravo Zulu. Like you croutons, that was
on what occasion is that used?
Well, if you run that up, if somebody does something stupid, it's a Negat Bravo Zulu in naval parlance. You learn something new here every day.
Yes.
Plus, I like the flags. Now, why are we giving him the Negat Bravo Zulu? You know why? He didn't go home to his grandfather's memorial service.
Oh, I thought wasn't supposed to.
No, come on. Nothing was going to stop him from going except maybe his more equally, if not more, croutonic wife, who's an American. Negat Bravo Zulu, the crouton of the day, doesn't go to his grandfather's memorial service. Excuse me. That's it. Unless there's a few other comments, replying to Emmett, FDA approved a 4th jab for all over 50. Yes, I would strongly advise a 4th jab for over 75s. John Emmett saying all my over 75s have had it, much better than, Julia's only 55. So. I caught it for the first time last week. Gareth Evans says, most sick I have ever been in my life. Gareth, were you double or triple jabbed? Not quite as bad as measles. Very few things are. Blake, who's got a health challenge. I have had a 4th jab. My doctors say yes, and on and on and on. I think Phil is great for SailGP. They ripped on him while with the black flag for no. Yeah, okay. Back to SailGP, but I just think he's croutonic. Now, I have also, I can play how, before we wrap up the whole thing with Auckland, thanks to Stingray, I now have, he sent us the reaction from, I got the volume up here, from the New Zealand Herald. It's just a 1-minute video. And let me play this so you can get another idea from New Zealand of what the reaction is to the Barcelona announcement.
Kia ora, I'm Sherry Kinnear, and these are the latest New Zealand Herald headlines. The location of the next America's Cup has been officially announced, and no, it's not New Zealand. Barcelona will host the 2024 event. In a statement, Team New Zealand and the Royal New Zealand Yacht Squadron say the city has been chosen after a long and competitive venue selection process. America's Cup commentator and double Olympic gold medalist Shirley Robertson says it's a real moment of certainty.
I mean, they obviously have enough funding now to defend the Cup with vigour. For the other teams as well, they know where they're going. So, a good decision.
But the decision will disappoint many New Zealand sailing fans and Auckland businesses. Auckland Business Chamber Chief Executive Michael Barnett says it'll see Auckland miss out on hundreds of millions of dollars of benefits. The government's defending its multi-million-dollar zero road toll ad spend. Almost $15 million over 3 years has been earmarked for the...
Okay, we don't need to talk about that, but the point is, again, Whiskey Tango Foxtrot, I cannot imagine why they've taken the Cup. I mean, I can't imagine why. Follow the money, as we've been saying.
Yeah.
And the defense could have been funded. I'm not going to repeat myself. To hell with it. Let's keep going. We're thankfully, the finish line, we're an hour and 30 minutes. Short show, Julie. An hour and 30 minutes in. And it's your witness.
Yes. There's lots to talk about. So like, follow, and share. And really, your likes make a big difference on our audience exposure.
And if nothing else, they make us feel good.
Oh, yes, they do.
Give us a thumbs up. Look at the thumbs up now. I have to go by the way, Julie and Tom, have a nice end of the show. This is the end. Comments are welcome. If you're watching in replay, we even accept comments in replay, and we appreciate the civility of all involved. We have the most civil, most bright, most active group, I think, on the internet, or certainly among the most. Patreon.com/join/Sailing Illustrated is how you can support us. If you're so inclined, you can send us a check because it does help keep us on the air with our lights and our internet and our equipment.
Yeah.
And even my landlady is happy if I can help her out with the expenses here at the Beach Street Yacht Club. Thanks to everybody who contributed today's material, graphic and otherwise. Julie, any final thoughts?
No, I it's sort of nice to see life go on.
Post-COVID.
Post-COVID.
One can only hope.
Yes.
And to all of you, just a reminder that on Friday, Magnus Wheatley will be with us. We'll rehash the Sail GP thing with a couple more days of chance to reflect, and also with a couple days to reflect on the announcement of Barcelona today and see what comes out of Madrid and some of the other areas of interest in relation and relative to the Barcelona announcement. That, of course, will be on Friday, same time, same channel. In the meantime, we hope you have a great rest of your week, and if you can, sail fast, sail safe, and as always, have fun. Ciao for now.